Hello, and welcome to another Minecraft Musings. Alright, just thinking about what I want to start like doing intros and outros, or if not. Also doing quite a bit of chuckling, doing some problem solving myself. And this episode is gonna all about problem solving. Yeah. So over the weekend, I need to repair that. Um, Over the weekend, I had a very nice recording. It was like almost a good hour, of course, and there's all sorts of good stuff covered, all sorts of stuff. And then, come to find out, the microphone was muted. And I had remembered right about that time. It was when I remembered that I had muted it the night before, for whatever reason. I think it was because I was finally playing some Fortnite. And I didn't want like people thinking that I wanted to talk or anything. But I leave it on so the kiddos can communicate, but only with each other. And anyways, sorry. Needless to say, the microphone was muted. so, um, and yeah, and problem solving. So now that I've discovered Jamboards and I've started really just having a lot of fun using them, um, because I'm putting together all sorts of just brainstormings of these projects that I've been trying to do, and basically holding all of these thoughts like in my head, like at any given time, I'm thinking about this, thinking about that, and then like, oh, I forgot that, which is kind of also why I'm doing these musings too, is like, because I might have some really good ideas, but then they might just kind of go by the wayward, or, you know, because we get distracted. I know someone who likes to say bright, shiny things. So if it's anything more than 5 minutes old, then it could be forgotten, basically. But anyways, back to problem solving. And the Jamboards too. They're such awesome brainstorming. Sorry, I just keep gushing about that because it's like the perfect tool. I've been thinking about trying to figure this out because I love getting like a piece of paper and a pen and just start writing things out. Like that was a big thing when I was learning computer science. Was like, you're about to code something or do something with some stuff, and whatever it may be. Then you have to conceptualize it, write out, draw like a quick picture. We all realize nobody's like a complete artist or Michelangelo or anything, but I don't know. We give each other a hard time, but the point is we would grab a pen and paper and just start just kind of like brainstorming and mapping out what we were trying to do. Especially with coding problems. Like when you're trying to solve a problem, you're like, okay, so first I need to clearly define what it is I'm trying to do. What am I trying to accomplish with this code? And that's true in the real world. Getting a proper user story from a user, someone you're trying to do IT work for, is pretty hard because not everybody goes to school for technology. Shocker. But then it's like when you're trying to work with technology, you have to have these precise user stories or these specific requests, because otherwise you might do too much, too little, the completely wrong thing. There's a lot of room for error, and especially when you're dealing with technology folks, you're probably paying them quite a bit. So it's really bad to have an expensive error, like have an entire project and then be like, oh, no, I didn't want that, I wanted this. And so there you go. That ties into all sorts of other social problem solving that I've been working on with Jamboards. As the music gets all quiet, like I know it's all pre-recorded, it's all the same, but it just kind of goes back to you could draw a lot of inferences from Minecraft and gameplay, like just the timing and synchronization of things, and you would never know. Like someone could be controlling it. But I digress. Please don't start thinking that way. That's a quick trip to being overly paranoid, and even if the Matrix is real, like how would you want to go about living in it? So I digress. But as far as the problem solving though, so social problem solving, there's a lot more facets or aspects to that, or faucets, facets, whatever. Like there's a lot more angles to that. Um, Now, because with computer science, you're trying to solve, okay, the best example is data management. Like you're just trying to store a bunch of files. You have a company that does something, trying to be as generic as possible. So it really is like a one size fits all problem and solution. So every company needs HR documents. They need employee records, like all that stuff. They need it protected. And there's all these things that go into like an HR file system, or just a file system in general, because really, if we're going to protect, one, and if we have the means to protect all of them like this, then we should just continually protect all files like that. And again, until we get to the day and age where legal matters aren't such a big thing. Because I mean, the specific thing I'm thinking about right now as far as like protecting files is corporate espionage, like insider business trading and stuff. Like, I mean, those are horrible terms. I'm not saying that right. But it is something we studied in business and in cybersecurity. Like, what are you trying to protect against? Like, maybe a corporate spy trying to steal the secret ingredient. There's stories about Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and I forget specifics about which. It really doesn't matter. But one person from one company stole information from the other company and sold it or tried to sell it, or maybe it was all fake. I don't know. Like, you would want to go look that up, but I know it's happened, and like, yeah. So, and then you get lawsuits. And honestly, lawsuits are probably one of the biggest inefficiencies of our society today. And I say that because it's just like everybody's solution is just throw money at a problem. Well, did they actually learn anything? Or, like there's certain other things to think about with that. And also, I need to kind of clear this out. I was doing some adventuring on that episode where I just completely muted myself for an hour. But I was going to say, I don't even want to toss any of that down. Just like, trying to optimize my trip, grab all of these that I already cut, not be super wasteful. And in the time that it took me to do that, I probably could have cut down more, and that's another thing, trade-offs. So, and that's one thing that I struggle with. So it's like, I just get done talking about how tech people are usually pretty expensive, and you got to be careful with the user stories, what you're trying to ask them to do, because you don't want them off doing the wrong thing, doing their own thing, or, well, I guess that's still kind of the wrong thing, but like in a different way. There's different like types of getting it wrong, and that's something to think about. And that goes back to the binary bias. Like, not everything is black and white. Not everything is one or the other. It's not an either or situation. It rarely is, actually. I mean, there's a lot of things you got to take into consideration when you're trying to problem solve anything. I mean, and I intentionally leave that vague because a lot of computer science concepts can really be applied to like everything. And those that watch these things know, yeah, I've said that like a million times, and I'll probably say it a million more. But no, sorry. I don't know. I mean, intentionally or unintentionally. Oh gosh, and that used to be an okay thing to say until a recent thing, and then it's like fortunately or unfortunately. It's like no, sexual harassment has always been wrong. Sorry, that's a little aside thing. That's neither here nor there. We'll leave that out. But anyways, so that's my problem solving. I was raised by my mom, so I'm very protective over women. That's just like part of my experiences and experiential learning. So I didn't empty all the other stuff. Anyways, problem solving. So, and this is why artificial intelligence is so hard to really wrap your mind around. It's because in order to completely make a human-like brain out of technology, we would have to completely fabricate an entire life's worth of experiences because, not everything is learned. Like there's instinctual versus observed learning. It's like nature versus nurture, I think nature versus nurture. It's what's already inside you in your DNA versus what you're learned, what your environment teaches you, the prince and the pauper type thing. You think about like, okay, did you grow up wealthy or did you grow up poor? And then did you really grow up wealthy or did you really grow up poor? Because that's the other thing too. It's like people might not think, oh, and that's the other thing too. So by one index, yes, you could be. But by another person's relative index, like, okay, so how poor were they compared to you? Or how rich were you compared to them? And see, I say that because I was actually going over a thing. So growing up, I had a good friend that, well, my best friend at the time, or I hate that term too, best friends. I had a lot of best friends, but a good friend, And then even now I call like people my brothers if they were like really my best friend, like, my two brothers that aren't actually biological, but I consider them. Anyways, and even that, get out of my yard, get off my lawn. Oh, also, let's use the experience for. Yeah, you really don't have. All right, switch it back. Okay, now gotta do that. Sorry, the whole process of. And then we resource, or come here, you, and come here, you. Then we relocate the llamas to a peaceful habitat. Also forgot that I was trying to expand over here and I took the stairs away. This llama lounge isn't quite complete. Actually, it isn't even been worked on. So, even as I say that, I could build that structure and make that. Okay, yeah, I'll probably do that. I just knew I wanted to build a big structure there. And then I had a bunch of llamas that eventually I was going to do like a whole underground tunnel. I guess, anyways, a whole tunnel to link this area, this pickup zone, or this whatever, staging area for all the llamas, and move them into the actual llama lounge, which is over there. And then I have another one on the other side of there. But yeah, so I will gather them all up and relocate them to somewhere, or like I said, yeah, make that building. Like it's testing out different fabrics in this texture pack right now, but I can make that the llama lounge, or just keep going inside places. Like I like, building inside the mountains. Like you couldn't really tell, but already I've got a lot of stuff going on down like inside, kind of like hobbit holes or something. But anyway, back to problem solving. Problem solving and artificial intelligence. Because I've thought about this many a time. Like, pretty much the whole time I was going to school for computer science, I was like, how would I build, like, the first AI, the first real robot? I think I think a lot of, people think that, especially anybody who used to watch Dexter's Laboratory and see all that stuff. They used to be one of my favorite shows growing up. But, the idea is out there. Like, what can we do with this? Like, could we make Oh, I forgot how much I actually did start moving over here. Oh yeah, that's right, because I was trying to spread this grass that go over there. That was the whole point of all this. So, anyways, the problem with problem solving and creating an actual AI to think like a human is you got to think about context and situation. So, by proper context, I mean, and we say that a lot, trying to get the correct user story out of something, or do the correct troubleshooting, problem solving. Like when you're dealing with tech, and people might not know how to articulate the problem quite correctly, or it might not be how you would think of it as correctly, or how you would even understand it. And again, this goes back to the type of training you've had versus the type of training they've had. So that's why you got to be patient, because yeah, yeah. Not everybody has had the same experience, and that's true with everything too. That's why we all really need to be patient with everybody, because, and this is where, okay, sorry, let me back up a little bit. Fortune cookie sayings, little cookie cutter, not cookie cutter, little zingers. I used to call them, like, little cool nifty ideas that would be great on a fortune cookie or like a slogan or some marketing thing, but don't actually really complete the thought. So, like, show empathy, walk a mile in someone else's shoes, things like that. You also got to add caveats or disclaimers or addendums. You could call it what you want. You need additional information that's tied to that concept. You can't just say, oh, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, no, a good healthy diet helps to keep a doctor away, but you also need to do exercise, and be wary of your mental health and how that's all connected. There's a lot, but that's the thing, is like our attention spans. We can't sit there, listen, and then it's like holding you hostage. And that goes back to the whole reducing friction thing. So either reduce friction or you add friction. You can actually talk too much, and that's why I'm trying to summarize these into more manageable, things, because it is a very real thing. People can only pay attention for so long. You need to kind of get to a point. Otherwise, well, even as I say that, I sat through several hundreds of hours of lectures and went over a lot of things. And of course I tried to listen to all of it, but you can bet that there was some wasted time in that. Like, I don't know. But even, I don't know if there's any way around that, short of having an Elon brain chip and just having it wired into your brain to begin with. Like, you would still need to be able to dedicate the time to learning certain skills and refining them. And then if you didn't actually learn them in the first place, and if you go to do them in industry, you're definitely going to learn them at that point too. So, and that's why I've, often said, I don't want to say always said, is that if you're going to do it right. And I've heard stuff like that. And by right, I mean the best balance between an efficient use of your time and efficient use of the resources at hand, what's to be expected, and all of these different things that you need to leverage into your decision making, to where it's like, okay, I'm really doing the best that I can, or being the best that I can. Be all you can be, like those army slogans and all that. But it's for real. I mean, that's not... And same with the you can be anything when you want to grow up. And that's completely true too. There are a few limitations, of course, but if you really put your mind to it and you work hard enough, and you actually put in the extra effort specifically towards that, have a vision board, and still work towards that goal. All of these things, it is possible. Anybody can do any job. And even as I say that, I don't think you're actually allowed to fly fighter planes if you've ever used hallucinogenic drugs. So on paper, you would never be able to fly a plane if you have a record of having used a hallucinogenic drug. However, if nobody knew that you hadn't, then of course you were able to, but you were not allowed to. See, that's the other thing too, is like we we take shortcuts in our language because of situations or contexts, things that we're used to or things that seem normal to us. And that's why I feel like, it's easier to talk with people you're more familiar with or comfortable with because you already know their caveats, their ins and outs or their quirks about their linguistics. Like when they're saying things, do they really mean this or do they actually mean this? And there's the rub with, there's the rub, with politics, the red versus blue. Like that's the biggest misunderstanding of communication ever, I want to say. Except for maybe like okay, sorry, no, we're not going to go down there. Writing down holy books and like claiming that they're, well, whatever your take is on that. But anyways, I digress. Communication and problem solving. So context and situations and background info, additional info. See, I really need to empty out a lot of this stuff. See, I was adventuring. Well, let's actually go back and look at that because I'm actually quite proud of that. I spent a lot of time this weekend. I literally just did nothing but, well, I put in this lava wall. I was trying to do purple and green. I don't know how it looks. I mean, and that's even just with this texture pack. It could look completely different when I go back to the other one. If I ever go back to the other one. I don't know. And then I did this. We got, Andarius, Bologna, Tercer, Fithenberg, Quarter, then Fithenberg, and Sixpence Isles. I was trying to go in like a somewhat reasonable order. It was original Alpha, and then there's Bologna, which actually my buddy named, which just happened to start with a B, and it happened to be the second map, so that was pretty cool. I wonder if it was almost a subliminal thing, like he was even thinking like, okay, Alpha Bravo Charlie or something. And mind you, I've never been in the military, but like, or I've never served, but like, let's see. Sorry, in an official capacity, I've never served in the military. Anyways, but I am very familiar with Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta, all that, and then you got A B C D E F G, the alphabet. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, sorry. The military, if you don't know, does the alphabet with words, so they know that. Too far in that. I did with this, and then I even started like mixing letters or numbers, Fithenberg and Sixpence Isles, and then quarter, which is like quattro, but then like quarter, something to do with fourths in like the Latin style, and even going into like the Spanish, which is also Latin. Anyways, just linguistics. So that's a little backstory of the nerding out that was my exploring, and just the time it takes to get one of these. I did Sixpence. I didn't do Fithenberg. That was already there. Quarter, I think I did. I'd have to go back and look at old videos. Bologna was already done. I didn't do that one. Tercer was not done. That's one I did, I'm pretty sure. It was close. I went there and I had stored the map there. That was actually, I was already starting to do. Oh, and all of these are linked. You might notice that these green dots where the bases are. And I also learned how to do the base because of a very short YouTube video. And so that's, again, why I need to, like, make a bunch of shorts. And I will do that. But anyways, I linked all of them with a railway. And then that railway is linked here. And eventually it's going to go, wait, there's one up there, which is like one of the only pieces of land. That's a mushroom island, actually. So that is kind of cool. Like all of this, like, kind of wasted space, I feel like. I mean, oceans are nice, but there's not really much you can do without some sponges, maybe. And I don't know if you want to be really isolated, I guess. But anyways, yeah, that's cool. I got all of those. And I recorded a good hour of it, and it was sound. I was muted. So, anyways. Problem solving, and yeah, I'm actually working on a couple Jamboards right now. They are awesome. So what is that? That's not. It snuck in. All right. But anyways, and problem solving and artificial intelligence. There we go. That's what I was really kind of trying to focus on, is because it's almost impossible to even think about how you would create an artificial brain, just because a brain is made up of every single experience, trauma, past experience, everything. And that's like the whole Douglas Adams things 42 is the meaning of life, which, and I don't even know if he really intended that, but I've made that connection. I know I'm not the only one that's made that connection. I don't know if I don't think I heard it anywhere. I was just like, 42, huh? And then I think I was sitting in computer class one day. I was like, wait a minute, the asterisk is 42. And I just happened to be reading the book at that time. So, I mean, I don't think I came up with it originally, but I don't think it's a real secret. Like, anybody studying computer science and that's a fan of that has the potential to connect those two dots and be like, oh, 42, that's the ASCII value for an asterisk, which in computer programming speak is everything. It's the wildcard meaning all. So if you did like a star dot txt, that means in Linux, get me all files that start with anything and then end in .txt. So, and then in Windows they use it, I think, is, see, I don't know that as well. I know they have regex, and I want to say it's the wildcard for Windows, and then Linux is the basis for Apple products. So I don't know. Then I feel like I don't know enough about Mac products and Apple products to really speak with any authority on the actual underlying code. In fact, I'm pretty sure Swift is like the iOS coding language. I'd have to check, but I've seen people, I've seen it. Like it's on Coding Game. But anyways, yeah. Sorry, I digress. The star is a wild card, which means everything, and the meaning of life. I think that's just kind of funny. And again, I don't know if that's what he intended, because he used to do like radio shows, and I don't know how much access he had to ASCII values, or if he knew what any of that was. But I'm trying to think of why I had these extra ones, because you need two empty locators maps to put the green dot on there. That's what that is, by the way. When you do, so sorry, so anyone who's curious, you could either look up that super short YouTube video, or for putting a map on a wall, on an item frame, that's why I have this one over here, that will mark it. We're good. So if I, wait, actually, yep, see, it is no longer on the wall. And the little green dot on my map that I'm holding in my hand. Oh, and now, there we go. Wait, is that Andarius? And then, sorry, I try to keep a backup schema here. So I have backup Andarius, backup Fithenberg, backup, well, that's just what it was originally named. Backup Tercer, another Bologna, backup Sixpence. There's 6 of them. There's supposed to be 6, so I'm going to have to play, like, who's missing and stuff. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. Quader isn't here. And, oh, it's just Quader. And I got 2 Bolognas. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Sorry. And even that, like, I don't actually believe it until I see it all the way through, because I've been wrong so many times. That's like, in a nutshell, computer science. Like, you're always going to be, there's always the potential for, you're not always going to be wrong. Like, hopefully you get better and you learn and you adapt. But, like, there is a potential for always getting a gotcha, having a gotcha moment. That's just, because tech is always evolving. Like, that's, the only constant is change. See, there you go. That's like another one of those little cookie cutter or fortune cookie sayings where it's like, okay, yeah, but what does that actually mean? You know, that sounds cool. That's a nifty jingle. Let's see, I was also trying to distribute redstone amongst the kingdoms. Or the domains, I think, actually. We're going to try to go a gender neutral. I mean, even if it's annoying, like, I don't care. I would prefer to get to a place where it's saying that, because saying you guys has always bothered me. It's like, because, whenever you're hanging out with some gals, like, oh, you guys. Like, it's just, I don't know. We are extremely lazy with our vernacular, or extremely sexist, but that's the thing, and that's why I say it's problem solving. Oh, and that is like the main importance of this. Let's see how far are we into actually getting yeah. That's the main importance of why I'm like so obsessed with this problem solving stuff, is because literally like all of society and all of it could just be fixed if we just did a few key things. All right, actually I gotta make a compromise here. I'm gonna drop off some of this stuff. I just got too much stuff. I gotta empty it out. So this is supposed to be my travel chest, and there's just tons of stuff there. I'm gonna put travel items in there. Whoops, travel-y items, and then take the nonsense out of here. Yeah, that can definitely go. Well, anyways, so the whole point is like, just the problem-solving mindset that is required when working with tech. Like whether it's just IT troubleshooting or working with software, you need to develop a problem-solving mindset where you're constantly trying to solve the problem. And it's also like deductive reasoning for detective work and stuff like that, getting into law enforcement. Like, a lot of kiddos a lot of kiddos also dream about growing up to be a cop or a police detective or, catching the bad. But and see right there, you're fabricating and pigeonholing a bad guy. So, which I suppose is also, one of those gender neutral things. It's not just for the good, it's the bad as well. Like, you got to be non-gender specific when you're, the bad actor. And that's why I love cybersecurity. Is they just refer to people as bad actors, and they used to have the sexist things, not intentionally. For a lot of people, it's not intentional. It's the way it is, the way she goes, or the way, like they say on Trailer Park Boys, or it is what it is, like people say in certain situations. But anyways, it's yeah, it's just how things currently are. And even that, oh, sorry, I wanted to put the coral block in there too. Like those, I definitely know I want all of the things up there until I get ready to actually build a magnificent aquarium that's huge. I've got all of these things to put in it. And you do have to put them in water, otherwise they die. I found that out pretty quick. So, anyways, yeah, problem solving, society. Like it's the same as, or it's not the same, of course, but the principles are the same or very similar. Also, check that out. I'm experimenting with making lava legs for structures. So I wanted to see how it looked. Almost looks like an AT-AT walker, kind of. If I put like a base, like an actual block on it or thing, and then have some lava legs. But these do look like AT-AT walkers or AT-AT walkers' feet. And kind of the connector pieces too, I feel like. No, actually, wait, they kind of is more of like an arm hinge thing. But anyways, Star Wars thing. Let's get rid of these. I mean, I don't know. I don't have to distribute them like that. And then see, like I've got all of this bone meal from just like tossing a bunch of stuff up here. So, anyways, the problem solving mindset. And why it's so hard to create an AI is because you have to factor in a lifetime worth of experiences. Same with problem solving. Like if you're trying to get to the root of why somebody breaks a law or commits a crime, you're gonna have to go back and find out, okay, what's their backstory? What was their upbringing? What is this? If you really wanted to trace, and again, you would be doing stuff like this if you wanted to prevent it in the future, not like it's kind of the dark side, light side of that too. Like you got to be in it for the right reasons. You can't just be a cop because you want to bust people. Like that's not. I mean, unless you had like some horrible travesty happen to you in your past, where you're like, oh, I want to give justice, and. But at the same time, it's like if you're really truly trying to serve people and right any wrong, then you'd want to problem solve. Like, ultimately, if you wanted to get to the root and make sure it never happens again, ever, like, say something like the Holocaust or something, like, something that we agreed on as, like, a world should never happen again, like, then you really got to problem solve effectively. I mean, and granted, like, that is a pretty good low-hanging fruit of something that can almost never happen again. I say almost because, oh, well, where's my ride? Whatever, we're gonna go for a run. So, but anyways, yeah, it's just unless it's not even down here. Okay, there it is. Yeah. So that just means that I must have climbed over the hill instead of rode this back one of the times. Anyways, problem solving. Like if you wanted to just bust something, then you're only solving it for the short term. And you're putting them in jail, you're locking them up, and then they're gonna go and then they're possibly going to commit a lot more crimes or not because of situation. Ah, there you go. See that? The little rebel, like these guys that don't get jobs, or these people, guys, gals. See, actually, I can't even tell. That's a pretty gender neutral looking figure. Anyways, also I like the green eyes match with the green tie. But you don't have a job. You're supposedly lazy in this scenario. I think the actual term for him is something like not slacker, but anyways, that's a specific game mechanic where there you go. They sleep during the day, they're up all night, they're not working, they don't do jobs. And that's almost a harsh reality for like, uh, people experiencing periods of depression or people experiencing periods of unemployment, like all of these different other things where, hardships. And in the past, we used to just kind of generalize and say, oh, they don't have a job, they're lazy, or like all this. But now we can actually be like, well, they were laid off, or, this company went over, or this, there's so many other things that can just go in. And those are the things that people don't necessarily either take the time to acknowledge or know that they need to acknowledge. And that's what I was talking about. It's like context matters, situations matter. There's a lot of different other things like that to where it's uh God, sorry, I just got really nervous about something. But anyways, yeah. It's so you can't just at face value have a flat out answer to everything. Like if you did, then well, I don't even know. Like that would just be simulation would be broken at that point, and then we'd all wake up. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's and actually we might get to the point at some point. Like if everybody started thinking and problem solving with a computer science mindset, like that's the biggest thing. And it sounds cheesy even as I say it there, but that's what I mean. Is like if you learn to solve problems with algorithms and code and using tech to your advantage to store, a million files or parse, which means search through a document and find a word. Like, all of these things that are possible now with the lightning fast or light fast or the speed of light capabilities of tech. Like you can now solve problems like that in like a snap of fingers. It's all done. So, in fact, it was probably done before you were even halfway through that snap, like milliseconds. So, anyways, which is hard to wrap your brain around. And then when you talk about like memory storage too, like even in my day, going from floppy disks, and I barely experienced the real floppy disks, the ones that would actually flop, like the save icon that kids today know it as. Those floppy disks I used quite a bit, but and then even then I thought it was so cool to like write a Word document and then save it to a disk and be like, hey, look, I have this and it says this. It's like a secret message because you needed a computer to decode it. Like I don't know, it was just really cool. And now like I can write an encryption algorithm that can encode stuff like in just minutes, and I don't know, it amazes me, and it'll never cease to amaze me. But that's only because I've experienced the evolution of tech in that light. Like when I was, let's see, dial-up. That's my basis of, like when we really got technology was when we got connected to the internet. Like we had a computer shortly before that, but I feel like we had it for a while without internet, and then we finally got internet. Plus, we're up in the mountains, so like it's even more expensive, more hard, and more rare. Like I got a buddy who he's just now getting Starlink up here, or not up here. Sorry, I'm not even up there anymore. But he went back home, and like he's just now getting Starlink, and he's having to deal with those ridiculously slow internets again, especially from living in the city for a while. I feel for him, I do, and it's like, but he's got Starlink, he's good, and then and I think he's actually going to be getting out of there soon anyway. Hopefully, one can hope. But anyways, just in our lifetimes, like since we were in like middle school, this is my old high school buddy and like whatnot. But anyways, it's like that recent. I don't know. I could gush about that for a long time because it's just like it's just amazing. But now kids today are learning that this is just how it's always been for them. Like you think about, oh gosh, this is really scary. All of the kids going and getting ready for college right now were born this millennium. Like I don't know. It's just now I kind of feel old all of a sudden. But anyways, no, I digress. It's important, the situation and the context. And so now you can apply that to everything. I'm talking about literally every last law broken, every infraction, every wrong someone does to someone else, every last thing really should be kind of examined to that point if we want to keep it from ever happening again. Like otherwise, you're only doing a half measure or half fixing it. And then there's that whole Breaking Bad thing where like, oh, don't do half measures, just kill them instead of like try to work with them. No, let's practice some discretion. Plus, we're not all running meth empires, so like that's not really relevant right here. However, and I love that series because it does show just like the very extremes of how like even a normal person can just end up in that lifestyle. And granted, I've known people that have like dipped in and out of certain lifestyles like that, but it's like actually like cartel level stuff, you just don't see that. Like that's not, and if you do, you might need to reevaluate your life choices and think, well, maybe I'm hanging out in some places that aren't really healthy for me. But and that's easier said than done too, because like, and that's the thing about like gangs and the youth. Like you're trying to problem solve. I know I heard this thing, and I actually haven't confirmed, so I guess I really can't say this with too much authority, but at least I'll add that caveat. Is I heard Tookie Williams, who's the original founder and leader of the Crips, was writing children's stories to dissuade youth into getting into gangs. Now, whether he actually did or not, the story of that has propagated um, amongst law enforcement circles and other circles, and like, so yeah. And then when you think about that, like even just like the mention of it, yeah, of course, well, he's in prison, he's learning his lesson. Well, and as far as I know, he's probably still there in prison, like for life or like, I don't know. And that's the other thing too. Like we really need to look at problem solving reform, like changing the way we problem solve in corrections, because as it is, and we are, thankfully, I should say that we are on average moving nonviolent offenders to more halfway house settings. In fact, I knew we had the boot camp program up in Buena Vista for nonviolent offenders, where, and mostly we're talking drugs. Like that was one of the biggest things, is like people that got caught with drugs, like they're just don't have life figured out themselves and they're making some poor choices, and now, hey, let's go put them in prison for like 10 years. Like, and so that's like, we're helping. No, you're not at all. Like you're just ruining someone's life for that long. And like, and granted, most of them actually, the coming of age, I talk about this, is the fully developed prefrontal cortex, which has been proven to not be fully developed. And actually, I still haven't looked that up. It could just be the frontal cortex or the frontal lobe. Anyways, your decision maker. There you go. There's a scalable solution in lieu of taking the time to look it up. So your decision maker isn't fully developed until your mid to late 20s. Like that's just true. That's scientific fact. I'd have to look at the actual specifics. Maybe it's early 20s to mid 20s, but I know that I didn't stop being a knucklehead until, I mean, I still have my moments, but ultimately, like once I hit my 30s, I started to slow way down and be like, the things that were important to me aren't really that important anymore. I mean, granted, a lot of it could be like having kids too. I can't tell you how much like now that I have kids, I'm not really all that eager to go out and like try to get some more. Like it's not, and that sounds bad. What I'm saying is like my body almost feels like it's saying like, okay, mission accomplished now. I'm in dad mode. I want to try to like make sure that they have everything they need and they're all good. And maybe that's part of why I'm so obsessed with problem solving and trying to make the world a better place. Nah, that's just been, my dad was the same way too. Constantly worrying about how to fix things. Not worrying, I'd say, because that just sounds bad, but just trying to communicate the solutions that we see, because that's the other thing, and that's why communication is so important, is because a lot of people are saying the right things. That's why like religion is so dangerous, is because yeah, like Christianity specifically, and most of Islam, I've only read a little bit of the Quran, I can't speak, but like from what I've learned about it, it's very similar. It's a control structure to try to help you live your best life, and for all I know, like they're all really good messages. But then it's like, okay, well, and that's what we needed back in the day before, we had all these modern conveniences. Like we could share a whole book of information or, in like one sitting. So it's like, yeah. And then I get back to that point where like you sit in lecture halls for hundreds of hours. You can sit and listen to someone ranting for a bit on the Minecraft. I'm just kidding. I'm going to keep making the shorts because I do want to make it all bite-sized and concise, because that is important to actually solve these problems. Like, and you can say all the cookie cutter or the fortune cookie phrases all day that you want, pay it forward or be kind or, all of these different things that, while yes, that is what we need to be doing, it's easier said than done, for one. And number two, how do you know that they're not already trying to do that? And then saying that is kind of a slap in the face to them anyway. So it's like, take someone who's already trying to like do good, and that's like the entirety of Boy Scouts, because I know that that's a motto: do a good turn daily, and also be prepared. So there's a couple mottos. But anyways, and that's drilled into your mind if you're a Boy Scout, which now, oh, did it the old school way. Yeah, let's get some. Ah, shit, that is quite a ripoff. I don't need them that bad. Also, a little pro tip: you can just hang out here for a while, and their prices will go down the more they sleep, the more the time they have. I think it's related to when they. Well, this is a glitch. He's not supposed to be in there. That's just how he is. Like he wakes up and then he pops up here, and then he just happens to get in there, and then they don't know how to jump, so you can't. I guess that would also happen like this if they walked in. Oops, if they walked in, and then they can go to bed, so they can leap from there. Takes their other friends' beds, I guess. I don't know. Anyways. You could say do a good turn daily all day, and that's just not going to fix the world. Like, it'll help. Oh, wait, that's where I was doing. Let's just put all this back. Oh, wait. Trying to hold everything in my head. Like, what am I doing? Where am I going next? And actually, I'm in the middle of making some Jamboards, and I got to clean up. There's all this stuff, too. I guess I could have left that. Anyways, in hindsight, whatever. We could have all done things more efficiently and differently, but... And that's life, too. That's funny. I even knew they were right here, and I was like, wait, why? Let's see, I'll take that. Oh, wait, that's actually for... Yeah, let's do a little railroad repair. Then I'm gonna get out of here. I mean, just a little bit, and then I'm gonna go. But I've also been trying to get this entire railway that dips down under right there. And it's actually, oh, pretty far. That was another thing I did. Oh, yeah, I made these giant lava columns, too. Like, so that was just the first one. I even had a smaller test one over there. And then, boom. I went way up. That's 2 stacks worth. So 128 blocks high. And I know that because I used 2 stacks of dirt blocks to get up there. And then I did it, but just a little bit above my head. And I was just standing on the dirt blocks. I harvested a couple down, and then I let it chase me all the way down because it is very slow to move. Like, you can run away from this. You could saunter away from this. You could, like, moonwalk away from this stuff. It's really not that bad until you get into it. And that's actually how I lost all of my tools once, and I had to spend a lot of time remaking those tools. Oh, it was annoying. But anyways, yeah, so as you can see, we have an emerald railway. Like, well, this whole way I replaced all the cobblestone with emeralds. Didn't want to alter it much. I might change it at some point, make it more like a roller coaster, make it go up, down, up, down, up, down. You know, but for now, just go down here, and then you run through a lot of llamas, and boom. I got it all the way, I want to say I got it. Oh, no, I didn't. There's still a gap. And that's why, because these llamas are in the way. I'm trying not to kill them, but, yeah, and then you got llamas just wandering off here. I don't know. I think eventually they can break their own tether, but actually, you know what? I do need to go do some other stuff. So let's call it good for now. I'm gonna go work on the Jamboard problem solving. I'll put the links in the description, but I mean, if you learn anything from this musing, or if you take anything away from this one, just know that you need to practice patience, kindness, and understanding, even if you don't understand. And that's the scalable way to problem solve when approaching any problem, is just to assume that you know nothing about the situation. Because as soon as you start building a case in your head, that's going to affect how you do the problem solving. So, and that is generally vague. That's actually like, you know, I'm talking about like law enforcement, like law and order, all of that. Like, it's really easy to build up a case, but then if you don't actually know the other person, then, you know, you might start painting a picture that's not really there. You might start connecting dots that aren't there just because you want them to connect, you know. It's like, and whether even, no, not saying that you're racist because you do this, but it's a slippery slope to acting in racist ways, whether you intended to or not. You exhibit racism there, or profiling, which, and that's the funny thing about law enforcement, is you have to profile because that's your job, to catch the person that did the crime, not the bad guy, not the bad gal, but, you know, it's, yeah, you're trying to, well, prevent crime from happening. So that's a 2-part job, really. You got to prevent the crime, and then you got to, you know, catch the people that do the crimes, you know. So there's a multifaceted way of problem solving in law enforcement. But then that's why it's dangerous, that you can't just be someone that wants to exact revenge and get into, or maybe you were bullied or picked on a lot and you got some trauma for that. So you're going to stick up for the little guy, and then you end up being, or the little gal. See, there it is again. But like, I don't know. So you got to be careful of that. But again, if we problem solved and thought in these scalable ways, then it really wouldn't matter what reason you got into it for. You could still fix your way of thinking and then approach things differently that way. So, and that's actually verbal judo. You know, I do know somebody that used to teach that in prison. Know a couple of people. Wait, no, one person that taught it. And then, anyways, not important. What verbal judo is how you communicate with someone who's broken or going through a hard time. I hate that term broken person, but someone who might not be thinking rationally at the time, like, or someone whose life isn't going so well. So maybe their decision making and their problem solving is a little skewed. That's a better way to think of it instead of like a broken person. But when you're dealing with people in corrections in the correctional setting, you do got to be careful, or you do have to be careful. Sorry, I'm sorry. Whatever. And actually, I've started to write the way I talk too. I start sentences with but and because, and I love it. And I'm a computer scientist. I'm not an English major by any means. But I also lived in the time where you had to do like the letter C, the letter U, and then L. Not really, I didn't do leet speak a lot where you mix the numbers and the words, but like I would do see you later because every text message costs 10 cents. And you send 10 texts to your girlfriend at the time or your boyfriend or whatever. You just cost your mom or your dad another dollar, and then that's just that one day. You do that 30 days, it's an extra $30 that you just spent. And that's being, like generous. Like, oh, you only sent 10 texts? Imagine trying to be like, in the know and socially accepted and like all this and oh, now you got to put up the front. So anyways, 10 cents a text message meant that you had to cut down or get in trouble. Like the choice was yours, and you could probably only do that once or twice, and then one or two bills and your parents are going to cut you off. So, or do something. And that's really not cool. You shouldn't be charging up your parents' stuff anyway. But the fact of the matter is, and there you go, there's the divide between parents and kids, is like parents have these financial obligations like phone bills and stuff. And then the kids, they've got these social obligations to fit in and not be depressed and not and all this. So they've got their needs to meet and they got to get their needs met. And then the parents got to get their needs met. Like, oh, do I even have enough to provide? Okay, that's a little extreme. Like, do I have enough to live comfortably is really what we mean. Like when we say, do I have enough to survive? Let's be honest. But anyways, sorry, I'm thinking about panhandlers, and this is the thing that I had to describe to my kid or explain to my kids the other day. Is like, well, why don't we all just like grab some food from our kitchen and go take it to them? Well, yeah, I would love to do that, and chances are I probably will do that. I've done that before, like food drives and stuff, and or if I know something like that's going on, I might go buy some groceries or just donate some money and like let them, because that's ultimately the best thing is just to give money. Like give it to whoever's orchestrating it, as long as you trust them that they'll spend it on what they need to. And that, again, that goes back to technology, creating these audits and checks to where it's like you can feel a little more comfortable that your money's not going to go to fraud, unless it's like going to campaign donations or something like that. I digress. But no, like now the best thing to do is give money to an organization and they'll take that money and they'll go buy the food that they can use better. And that it's better all around for everybody because then the food lasts longer. It has a better chance of getting to people that need it. And the reason I bring this up is Fort Collins has this magnificent food bank. I actually used it a little bit in college because I was dead broke and I was spending all my money on booze, let's be honest. But like, and I didn't have a lot of money to begin with. So, and I was working and all this. And then it's just like, between all this, between paying for college, paying for rent, and my mom, paid for a lot of my rent too. So it's like, even with all this extra help, it's like, but yeah, even as I say that, the drinking and all that, oh, we should all live like Jesus and never drink and all. I'm kidding. Are you kidding? His blood is made of wine. Like, no, that doesn't even hold up. But anyways, easier said than done. Like, you don't know what it's like. And also the fake it till you make it, like, that always bothers me too. Cause then it's like, wow, I said I was going to stop and go do other things. And then we get into that. So, but anyways, that is important though. So context and then corner cases and blind spots. I say that all the time in my work, but like, it's true because when you're trying to figure out anything, if you really want to fix it, like, so it doesn't keep popping up like later, and I'm being vague intentionally because this really applies to all problem solving, you got to kind of blur your vision, as a way to think of it, and try to see all the other things around it. Like, okay, here's a problem. Okay, but the who, what, when, where, and why, like the 5 W's or whatever it is. And like, do a little investigation. Like, okay, wait, how did this break? Who break? Not that we care. I mean, the fact is, like, I'm not out to try to bust somebody. I'm just trying to fix this problem. So if I know who did it, and that's the other thing too, and I'm really cautious not to point fingers because your pride is on the line. When you're asking someone for help with the tech issue, you're showing them a vulnerability. Like you're admitting that this is something that has bested you. And it's a very humbling experience, one that I know very well. And that's why it's so easy for me to be patient with people because it's like, yeah, I was right on the other side of this finger, Like I would have been pointing at myself like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, like about this particular thing. Now, granted, if it was like coding in C++ plus plus or Java, or, you could be vague about whatever. Like, but now I'm trying to code in Swift. Well, I have no idea about Swift. So again, I'm back to the back of the line, like, or the, of importance as far as this is concerned, or the authority. So, and right there, and that's why tech people are generally a little more humble. I say that, but they didn't used to be. It used to be, this was how it was described to me when I worked at that aerospace company. It was like, you know, IT used to be one disgruntled guy with a bunch of beepers, and unfortunately that is kind of sexist, but like, yeah, again, the male to female ratio in computer science is a horrible ratio, and that's why I was trying to be an advocate for ACMW, the women's chapter. But anyways, I digress. But the point is, it used to be some person all disgruntled and grumpy with a bunch of beepers, and they would get to it when they got to it because they were already doing so many other things. And that's the other thing too. Like even right there, when you're describing it, they were probably doing a ton of stuff. Like the system admin back in the day that didn't have Google and didn't have things right at their fingertips, like, and had to spend like a day, a week, a month just to learn how to fix one problem. Like, and you think I'm exaggerating? Like, that's why, people that study computer science, even back in the day, like being able to work from home to do it, because not everybody could afford a computer, and especially the type of computer you would need to study certain aspects of computer science. Like, definitely not. I mean, even like today, okay, yeah. And so again, the kids of today will never know that struggle. Like, I've got what, like 20 computers here. Like my kids will never know what it's like to not have a computer. And that's wild to me. So, anyways, um, damn, that is wild. I used to take a little floppy disk and like, write a secret message to my friend and then give him a disk. And like we were all secretive about it too. Like, okay, here's the spy documents. Like here's a disk. And then and just don't drop it, scratch it, or even hold it too long. Like, you're gonna break it. And then now we just got like, oh, what's on the YouTube today? Oh, hey, there's A-Rye. He's just musing. All right, let's watch it a little bit. Just kidding. I don't want to get into that cringe nonsense. Watch it if you wanna. I'm not your supervisor. There you go, a little fighting cowboy. Um, yeah. All right. That's all for this one. I'll put the links in the description. I'll go work on some Jamboards of problem solving and bring it all together to what I mean. So until next time, see you later.